Okay. So, thank you, folks. Wonderful applause there. Glad you're all here and watching. And we're back. Yes. Welcome to this week's edition of the wonderful show we call the Inworld Review. We are looking at destinations, arts, and above all, people in the wonderful world of, well, the hypergrid, we call it. Basically, the hypergrid is a massive network that connects together all virtual worlds that are running on the Open Simulator platform. Rather like if any of you know Second Life, this is you can imagine you've got 100 different or 1,000 different versions of Second Life, and you can jump between them because you've got the hypergrid. The only place we can't jump to is guess where, but that's another story. Anyway, one thing we've never really quite done on this show is we've had arts and crafts and people from all over the place, but as far as I know, we've never done a shopping show. Yes, a shopping show. And obviously, you can't trot around in a naked avatar all the while or go with a system, what they call a system shirt or whatever. You've got to take care of your avatar, dress it up and stuff like that. So, we're going to be looking at that particularly later on. Anyway, just to introduce those of us here first, to my right, it's a wonderful colleague on the knobs. The knob fiddler himself, sitting as usual, James Atloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, thank you, Mal. As always, it's a great time to be here.
Always, yes, it's always a great time. Yeah. And on my right, on my left, you're right. What the hell? None other than the Queen of Safari, but also my regular co-host, wonderful Thurza Ember. Welcome, Thurza.
Thank you. What the hell? I've been called much worse, but I'll take it. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here because we have Lyr Lobo here, and she's
Yeah.
going to be talking about my favorite occupation, which is shopping. I'm so excited. This is going to be a great show. Glad to be here.
Oh, yes, I can see you. Well, I can feel you bouncing up and down. I can't quite see it yet,
Absolutely.
but never mind. So, which leads me into the other person who's sitting next to us here, and that is none other than my friend Lyr Lobo. Hello, Lyr. Oops. Oh, no, you should be. I see your wavelength going on, but not your voice. Are you muted by
Oh,
any
she's
chance?
muted in Discord.
I am,
There we go.
thank you for for inviting me and oh, how exciting. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll be coming back to you, Leah, in a little while, and well, we launch into the big shopping expedition. But we're going to start off the show as usual with a few bits of housekeeping. And where better to start than to throw everything over to Thursday for the little section we call Hypergrid Happenings.
Yeah, and if it's happening on the hypergrid, isn't it? Every single week. This is the calm before the storm, let's call it, because Americans are just gearing up for Thanksgiving and the rest of the world is gearing up for Christmas. So it's often quite a quiet time on the hypergrid, but nevertheless, plenty happening of the usual events. For example, over on the Wildwood Bayou grid, they have Hot Daddy's region, which has probably got the longest name in hypergridding, I believe, because look at that name there on the poster, wildwoodbayou.com 8002 Wildwood Bayou Hot Daddies. That is a mouthful. But of course, it's DJ Riker, and he's doing the Hot 70s hits. This is going to be tomorrow on Monday, and it's at 6 p.m. Second Life time. So that'll be a fun 70s style thing to do. So make sure you're wearing your psychedelic gear and your terrible fashions. And here's another thing that's coming up very soon. It's over on Eternity Blues and Jazz Club, which is on DigiWorld. It's a great place, Rock City, super sim. It's our friend DJ Rosa Alexeyev, who we all know very well. She DJs all over the Opensim, and she's based in Kitely, but that doesn't stop her getting out and about. And this is going to be the country blues. I love the way the poster says country hats optional, Presumably, all the other clothes are also optional. It's up to you. As long as you keep that hat on, right? Another thing that we mentioned before, and I know James is a big fan of this, it's the belly dancing. Our good friend Cataplexia Numbers, she teaches belly dancing every week on Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Second Life time or grid time.
How did you
And
know I
that's
like
on
belly
her.
dancing? I mean, I do have a
Well,
belly, but
I have to tell you, the rumor is out there, and it's pretty
So,
solid.
all right.
that means you can't sit. You're going to have to wiggle those
I
hips.
have to wiggle, right?
Apparently, the gentlemen are supposed to wear kilts if they wish to participate, and
Oh,
I've seen some pictures, so definitely worth getting that kilt. And here's another great thing, and this is so appropriate for today's show. Our great friend Tresaria Hunter, Trizzy, she has some new winter fashion coming up. As you may know, Trizzy gets clothes from Second Life. She actually approaches Second Life creators and she asks them if she could give their clothes away free in Opensim, always under the condition that they're not sold for money and certainly not sold back into Second Life. And she has a lot of success with this. She often gets beautiful rigged clothes, which she then retextures many times. And her new fashion that's coming out next week is going to be lots of cozy and elegant comfort, beautiful clothes for the ladies, and I think one or two things for the gents as well. So you can see that over on RRD Mall, which is her region, is a huge mall. You'd spend hours there. And it's over on myvirtualbeach.com grid. So check that out. That's a brilliant place. And she's such a lovely lady. Shout out to her if she's watching. So check for those fashion exclusives coming out next week. And here's the last thing I wanted to mention, which is, well, second to last. It's Littlefield's Thanksgiving Day celebration. Mal very kindly pointed this out to me. Of course, it's November the 23rd. That's a Thursday, of course. And they always have a great event over on Stonehaven region on Littlefield Bridge. So bring your turkey and bring your dancing shoes because there's bound to be a lot of fun. And the last thing, of course, that I have to mention is the Open Simulated Community Conference that's coming up on the 9th and 10th of December. Beautiful poster by France Charming here. And that's over on cc.opensimulated.org, 8002 grid, which we've all been to many times and will be at again very soon, I'm sure. So just pointing out to you once again that if you do have a project, a party, an opening, a class, something coming up on your grid that's special, please let us know so that we can include it in Hypergrid happenings.
Well, thanks very much. There's a wonderful choice of stuff there. Right, I should point out, I keep meaning to point out on this show that Hypergrid Happenings, lasts about 5 minutes or something like that. We also post that up on actually several different groups on the Facebook. So if you're one of these people who live in Facebook and want a quick burst of what's on, then you can find the mini version of the show there. We just sort of take it out of this show and stick it up as a standalone thing on Facebook. So moving on to a few other sort of up and coming type things here. Okay, got a picture here. Since we've got Lyr here anyway, we did mention that the Opensim Community Conference is coming up. Oh, it's about 3 weeks away yet. Neither Lyr nor I actually belong officially to Avacon, but we're both heavily involved in sort of sorting out some things for the OSCC itself. And the two of us, well, while I got there here, we'll credit this, the two of us will be jointly hosting what we broadly call the viewer panel on Saturday. So we might get round to mentioning that a bit later, but I thought I'd mention that. This is just a map of all the presenters get their own little exhibit in a special exhibit area, and that's kind of the map of what they are. for this year. Just quickly going through what I got here. We saw that a second ago. LF Grid will show you more of this later near the point, but they are on Saturday, 24th of December. They're starting a Christmas celebration on their Christmas Island in LF Grid, but we'll get to that near the time. That's these I will bring back if we need them. Just a little agenda. Oh, a reminder too that Avacon is HG Safari's Planet B. I love this poster you did. Basically, we're in our studio here on OS Grid nowadays, but we have a second studio, which was originally our first studio, which is grid.avacon.org. 8002, sorry, and region is Safari. And I particularly mentioned that because we just have a small studio up in the sky here in OS Grid, but the one in Avacon, and I'll actually, if Thursday wants to comment on that, it's actually a really nice build. It's got an identical studio to this. For our shows and things, but the whole island there has got various links or places you can hypergrid off to and things like that, hasn't it?
It's definitely there are quite a few things you can do over on Avacon on the region, which is just called Safari, not HG Safari. So makes it a little bit more difficult to find because we hate you. And there is a little store there. There are some self-guided tours. There is also a landmark box which contains the most recent Safari landmarks, and there will be some archive material there before the new year, so that if you have missed a lot of safaris and would love to have the landmarks, you can just go there and grab them.
Great. In addition to, of course, the Safari Clubhouse on OS Grid. Right. Oh, this is from the. Oh, sorry, those are from an old show. Right. Okay, we're done there. Okay. So, which is this here? Right. Okay. Moving back to a couple of other things. Right. We can't obviously show you this, but in my Opensim social feed on Mastodon. It's a lovely, it's full length. It's a 15-minute film of a guy called Universe Stockholm, who I'm very familiar with back in the days of Second Life. He actually did whole performances of Pink Floyd's The Wall and things like that. And I don't mean he mimed to it. I mean he actually put on his own shows and played his interpretations of the songs. And I'm going to give you right. This one actually happened in Craft Grid, and if you want to watch it, it's actually on YouTube. The only reason we're doing this now is I'm going to just give you a flavour of what his music sounds like, because he's very good indeed. And this was on Craft Grid in Opensim, not in ye oldie world of SL. Deeper, darker. Oh well, so much for a quick run through. It's busy caching to catch up with me. Anyway, that is definitely one to look out for. Also, what have we got here? Opensim user activity. This is a post from hypergridbusiness.com this week. The headline just talks about Opensim user activity ramping up for the season. But if you scroll down the list here, whenever they post what seems to be a blog article, it's really like a magazine, because after you read that article, you can scroll down and they've got all sorts of other news about, getting your newsletter or the top grids by users and stuff like that. And as you can see, they list them all. I'm amazed that Wolf Territories is now second in the popular grids.
I'm not surprised.
That's whoosh. Neverworld down there at 9, which isn't half bad, but the impact Wolf Territories has had, I mean, it's second only to OS Grid. That's a lot of active users per month. So and of course it's a large geographically speaking, grid.
Yeah.
So a lot of information there. Online marketplaces for Opensim, they covered there. They're talking mostly about Kitely Market and things where you can buy stuff. Obviously, there are a lot of places where you can get stuff free as well. And there are, as you'll see when we come to our shopping extravaganza, we're going to be looking at places where mostly you can pick up all sorts of different things, but without having necessarily to pay for them. Yeah, grid news. So let's come there. More on Littlefield. Anyway, you can log into hypergridbusiness.com. That's hypergridbusiness.com to get that sort of news there. Also of interest, I think, this is New World Notes. Valdner Rohr is an old journalist that was used to be Inworld in Second Life, but he covers a lot of things, including a thing I've got coming up in a minute. But he had an article this week, which you can. Where's my reader view? There we are. Which is actually looking at a new viewer that is being made. And although this is actually sort of a Second Life, like a Firestorm type viewer, what is interesting about them is that a lot of the dev work being done is being done and demoed in Opensim rather than because it's easier to do so than it is to do the same in Second Life. And it describes it as Opensim viewer on Unity. It's an odd phrase that. It means they're using Unity to build the viewer. Yeah. But it's quite interesting. I think this is something Lyr and I will be maybe talking about at our viewer panel at OSCC. But anyway, this is just quite an interesting little blurb about it. And you'll find this one at... I've got my link. But anyway, it's new. Look up New World Notes. Actually, I don't know what. nwn.blogspot.com. I think it is. So news on that, and also we featured this a few minutes ago actually on our program. Our friends at Sciencebase. The main guy at Sciencebase, a chap called Adam Frisby, is also one of the co-founders of Opensim, so we've got a lot of overlap here. And just to announce what they've got with their changing. This is all for free users, by the way. They've increased the default region size for people from 128 megabytes to, believe it or not, 2048 megabytes. That is a huge upgrade, which they say opens up new realms of possibility for projects. More active regions to explore. You're no longer limited to one active region. You can now manage up to 100 regions, giving you a vast canvas for creativity. And room for more friends and visitors. The maximum number of users on the region has gone up from 10 to 200. Means bigger gatherings, more interaction, and a lively community. And they have a universal XMPP, which is a secured form of login if you want it. The price for this is that you are free users. It's now limited, a limitation on commercial use. In other words, the free offerings cannot be used commercially anymore. And they recommend that if you want to do commercial stuff, you move to Breakroom, which is Sciencebase, a different partition under a different name. You can get from Breakroom to Sciencebase, but you can't get the other way around. Breakroom is really slightly different interface, and it's designed for commerce. And they're also announcing that they're giving, if you've actually paid for an extra thing that is now included in the free plan, then they will be refunding your money if you've actually paid for something that is now being changed to free. So they also on Friday had their 7th anniversary. So elsewhere on their blog, you'll also find a roundup of that. Again, this is blogscienspace.com, so blog.sinespace.com. And yep, that seems to be it for there. Now, very quickly, before we move on to the shopping, we'll just have our normal roundup of our Thursday's blog. Last Sunday, while we were on air, or shortly after, I think, you posted a thing on Karima, a wonderful poet, Karima Hosan. She's been putting archive videos of all her regions on Kitely up online, and she really has a lot of them. On your blog, you actually showed the Hudson Line. I've actually downloaded these that we could show, but it won't be today. But you can actually you can go in there and oops, wrong browser, and look at some of these videos. They really are kind of wonderful. Very very nice soundtracks, and okay, I was trying to find a bit where I would hear her voice, because actually her voice when she's reciting poems over these things really makes it. Anyway, this is one of the interim posts you can find on Thursday's blog at hgsafari.blogspot.com. Any comments on that, Thursday?
Oh yes, Karima, as everybody knows, has been in Kitely for such a long time, the very early days, and she is also quite exceptional. She's one of the few people whose regions are really easy to get to. In fact, it's quite often a struggle to see the art that is available there, simply because it's a bit of a gated community and people don't really welcome you in as they do on other grids. So I've always loved Karima. I've known her since the early days of Second Life, and it was a pleasure to go through these, and I know there will be many more. Karima recently released her life story. You may have read it on her blog, explaining all the things that happened in her life, and I think this is a charming way to really solidify her legacy to Opensim and to virtual worlds in general, because something that's on YouTube stays there. And she's done so much. She's got nearly 20 different regions over there, and as she's going through each one of them and making a video of them, it's something that we can keep forever. It's wonderful.
We will have to get her back on this show at some point. Okay, well, while Safari is not on, of course, you are actually keeping the world going, so to speak, by putting some interesting sort of destinations on the blog, so to speak. And this post, the most recent one, is called "The Breath of Shen Tao." I would just I'll change it to web view, and then we can actually pull up the pictures while you describe this. So very nice, some nice stuff here.
Yes, this is a post about meditation, and Shen Tao is a Buddhist, and he is extremely spiritual person. He always has been, and he has always used virtual worlds to express his spirituality. You've seen his work. We all have over the years here in Opensim, his many ships. You may remember from the very early days of Opensim, made of Prims. He has moved around all over the place, and now, wonderfully, he's found a space over on Virtual Worlds Zone, which I'm delighted is one of the most beautiful grids in Opensim. It's a real art destination. If you've not been there, you have to go and see it. It's just gorgeous, and
This
it's one
reminds
of those
me.
places.
It's okay.
Yeah,
This
go
almost
ahead.
reminds me of surrealism. Paintings, surrealistic. Imagery. I don't know. Sorry, just interrupted.
No. You're absolutely right. It's a surreal world, but it's a world very much connected with his belief system and the things that he is talking about, which is the blog post explains the form of Buddhism that this represents, which has to do with air, it has to do with breathing, and it has to do with trees. And hopefully the blog post kind of contextualizes the very important, very real world values that this build represents. It's one of the most important builds I think I've seen this year.
Yeah. So read more about that at hgsafari.blogspot.com. You get not only the pictures, but you get words too, all about his beliefs. Right, Pixels at HIE. This was another one. This is from our Hypergrid International Expo, but this is a midweek post from. Oh no, actually, this is the week before. Actually, isn't it? Yeah, this is what's her name? Pixels. Oh God, I've forgotten her name again.
Jessica.
Jessica lifted Pixels.
Yep.
To
Yep.
some, and yeah, this is just a little feature on her and what she was doing. She also does a weekly when Safari's in season. She films each safari, as a sort of interactive thing with the text showing on screen and stuff like that, as a sort of a live record in real time of safaris as they happen. So she's great on that.
Just to let you know how long she's been hanging around with Safari. The very first Safari calendar I did, which was I think in 2016, she was one of our calendar girls.
Ah,
So
well,
she's stuck with us through thick and thin. Yes.
she's standing on the table there, and I hasten to add that is not an art sculpture. That is actually her avatar, and I'm trying to equate that avatar with a calendar girl. But anything is possible. Not possible in real life, is what we say.
Well, the photo of her is I think she's at the Ivory Tower of Learning. So
Yeah,
evidently, it all fits together with Prince
yeah.
somewhere or another.
Okay, and the final one, I think it was this week. I've lost the date there. Actually, this was Nick's by the numbers. Yeah, Wednesday, November 15th for this one. Yeah, Nick's is been with, we had him at the conference and all sorts of things. He's even going to be at the OSCC conference too. And this is about a region he's got on the Pangea grid, isn't it? So let me find a picture.
It's actually quite an old project in a way. This has been going on for some time. Nix and of course Lampitala, who over on Pangea Grid, she organizes the art and culture festival. The idea is that that they would invite in people, photographers principally, people with some 2D art that they would like to share. And Nix has a sort of a gallery in there. It doesn't really look very gallery-fied, I know.
Yeah.
But that's the whole idea, that your art would become part of this much bigger building. I don't know if you can see that the sky is actually a photograph.
Right.
If you look up, you can see there's a picture of a person. It's part of the sky. So his idea is that we should try and do more things that are not possible in real life. He enjoys hyperreality. He's extremely good at it, putting together realistic looking houses and builds of all kinds. But he's really interested in moving beyond that and having using to the utmost the possibilities that virtual worlds offer, to be part of something that doesn't look like it could be on a high street somewhere. So that's really his thing. And of course, that's an invitation to anybody who wants to get involved to participate and collaborate with some top-notch artists. Nix and Lampitala both at the top of their game.
When you see this on video, I mean, it looks pretty spectacular anyway, colourful and everything else. But the film can never actually impress upon you the sheer scale and size of the things he does here. You've got things that cross regions, but more importantly, their height is greater than the width of a region. They're vast. And I must say, from having filmed in some of his things, it's very easy to get lost, because you'd be standing on a transparent surface and you're not sure whether you're up or down. But wonderful, wonderful, unique experiences that could only be done in Opensim, really,
Exactly.
as far as I can tell. And just things like that just look wonderful, not
Well,
quite.
they could be done, of course, in Second Life too. But he has got, I think is it a 4x4 and 8x8 bar region? It could
Second
be
Life.
done in Second Life, but you might have to mortgage your house to do it. That's
Yeah,
the only
and
thing.
not only the expense, but you can't use far regions in Second Life. You'd have to have 4 regions, and you'd have to worry about the crossing, and you'd have to worry about the lag. The freedom he has in Opensim is just beyond compare, and it's economical. I'm quite sure.
Mhm.
There, that's a nice end shot, isn't it? Sort of.
Now this is specifically, this is a much newer build than the ones we've just seen. This is actually part of his EP uh, crusade, if you will. I don't know a better word for it, because he's just fallen in love with the possibilities that EPs offer you to manipulate the environment and use it as an artist's tool.
Yeah.
And so this is just a tiny, this is obviously only a 7-second GIF to give you a little bit of an idea of what he's doing. And that's, of course, what he's going to be talking about at the OSCC.
Very true. Yeah. Okay. Well, wonderful stuff, and we've been to a lot of his stuff over time. Okay. Well, that's as up to date on the blogs and everything else like that. So it's about time we move to our guest and our wonderful theme of the week, which is shopping. Okay, ladies, are you ready for a bit of
Woohoo!
shopping?
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. They're louder than the blokes, aren't they? Right, right. Okay, so it's time to welcome back. She's been here all along, of course, but welcome back to Lyr Lobo.
Thank you, Mal. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Now, just I know you've been saying. I mean, basically, I thought, oh, we're going to have this on the Inworld review. When I saw you, it was on a MOOC, which is a multi-user educational thingy. I can never remember what they stand for.
Massive
But
open online course.
yeah, something like that, and the sort of I don't know, places like Avacon and OCC have always got this little bit where you can pick up a business suit or for your avatar to wear when you're attending a conference or something. But you've taken that whole step further, in general social terms in Opensim, and just looked at all the variety there, and quite astonishing it is too. I think the best way to do this, we're going to prove to Thursday that you can get through 50 slides in 50 seconds as well.
I'm
Well,
happy to see it done. I believe
so
in you. I believe in you.
yeah. Now, this, as well as talking about the shopping, which I think we'll do afterwards, what I would suggest is you give this little presentation now.
Sure.
You can, move the slides yourself and stuff at your own pace and run through it. Like I've obviously seen an earlier version of this before. I gather you've added a few things since then. Um, just to give people a wonderful idea of the variety of stuff there. And then when you finish, then we can talk over some clips and talk over some specifics. So
Wait,
if that
I
suits
have a
you,
question for you. How do I
yeah.
drive the slides?
Oh right.
Is there
If
an object?
yeah. If you point your mouse at the screen where it says HG Safari,
Yes.
yeah, I'll do the first one for you. You just click on it and it goes forward one.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect.
And there is some thumbnails lower down that viewers can't see on the on that side of the stage. All I can tell you is that the one on the far left is a back button and the one far right is a forward button.
Oh,
But
that's
if
fine.
they're in order, all you really need to do is click on each of them as you want to move forward.
Great.
So
Wonderful.
I've done the first one for you. Surfing the metaverse using Opensim World.
And
Yeah.
what I did was I assembled these on my Lobo World, where I teach. I'm teaching my 60th class in Opensim this term. I'm teaching 4 classes, and the stimulus for this was the fact that my students needed content. Right, the first time you log in, and especially if you're new to the virtual world, you want to customize your avatar. You want to create your identity, and of course, you got to have some cool stuff, and I have them creating experiences and then doing usability testing in them. So we test a lot of objects. So moving along, we're going to visit these sites very quickly by imagery. And of course, many of them you're familiar with already, but we're looking at them through the eyes of a new user. So the words on here are not as important as the content that follows. Now here we're resin this one, and this is Opensim World, and most of you are probably on it, using it, but my new students and new educators and administrators, people around the world, they're new to this. So I was explaining that this is a directory for finding content people post about their malls. And of course, we're trying to identify more and more cool places to shop. So the problem here with a newcomer is this is cognitive overload. You look at this and you go, where should my eyes travel? And of course, I start with the upper right arrow where it shows the hypergrid address. And I say, well, you need to copy that, put it in the world map and hit find, right? And of course, at the bottom, I says, once you find wonderful places, one of the hard things is getting back to them, even if you have landmarks, which they often forget to do. So I said, why don't you like the ones you've enjoyed visiting, so you can return to them or set a bookmark? And that's at the bottom of the guide. So I'm trying to think in a connected way about all the different sites, all the different shops, and all the different experiences that we love about OpenSim. So, of course, I had to take them to Wright Plaza. We have the Educators Commons there. And of course, Kay McLennan hosts a get together at the OSCC, a little campfire get together on Thursday before the conference begins. And she runs a shop here with a lot of scripts and useful items for new students. So we went over there and visited, and that was our first destination. And of course, I'm standing there at the landing point where you first come in, and I was thinking about the original core devs. I mean, I don't just shop, I start thinking in this connected fashion about why things matter. And of course, where to go and how everything is laid out. So I'm demoing there. And of course, this is the Educator Emporium. And that's Kay McLennan's shop up above. But I took the students around to many of the shops to look at textures, to look at avatars, to look at even the mesh avatars. While I happen to be wearing a classic avatar at the moment, that's because I'm teaching on Mars. So, of course, we created our uniforms and everything from details from NASA. And of course, we're running a lot of simulations over there. So, so I take them through the shops, teach them how to shop, and then, of course, how to respect the rights of the creators who've created this content, even as we're usability testing it. Okay. Now, when I say usability testing, I'm really thinking about how does content support your behavior? How does it make you feel good and make you feel alive? And of course, for me, it has a lot to do with motion, right? And so I look at the avatars and I love it when there's examples of movement and how the clothing will look when you're wearing it, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I'm just blithering through, but I promised Thursday that I would be fast.
Well, you've
I
got the
got
right pace here.
all my
Yeah.
Yeah.
fingers are crossed.
Now, what's funny is over half of my students are male, right? So I can't just take them to places where we're seeing a lot of female clothing. They like to represent themselves in many different ways as women, men, furries, you name it. And of course, we had to stop by and look at some of these looks. At the OSCC, we're going to also see a new avatar and a lot of cool content related to this, but I don't want to get ahead of myself here.
Can
Now,
I
I
can
had
I
to take,
stop you and just ask a
yeah,
question
go ahead.
there?
Sure.
I was wondering if amongst the shops that you're going to be showing us, do you have Tana Wells's content? Because she's made a lot of original mesh for men,
See,
which is
I
obviously
don't, and I
free.
need that. What we did was we hit the obvious sites at first, and then,
Hmm,
the ones where we were working, so they didn't have to
right.
travel too far. Because you know how it is when you're
Sure.
hypergrading with folks who it's their first day in world.
Oh
It's like,
yes, I'm well aware.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I'd love the
Indeed.
slurl on that so I could visit, the hypergrid
Sure
URL
thing.
for it. Yeah, that'd be
She's such
awesome.
an excellent builder, and of course it's all original mesh by her. So great.
See, I love that. I love it. And of course, we do talk about ethics and digital rights and all of these things and having respect for the creators. I love this hair. I had to showcase it, right? And of course, my students are always saying, we go to these malls and they're so full of great content. How do we find something quick and get back to class, right? Or get back to our work because we don't have a lot of time. And so that was my second thought when I was putting this together, was thinking, okay, well, I love hair. So we go to a mall, we go to a destination, and what next? And so on the right, I know it's rendering for you, but on the right, you're seeing a list of all the hair. And what I'm doing is I'm teaching them to use the area search feature to find content, and hopefully all the content creators are naming their objects in a way that at least something related to the description. Yeah, I know. I hear
Oh,
you
you mean
giggling.
not just put objects?
I know.
Really?
Oh,
Or
that's
No,
a
no,
good
or or
tip.
the cool name, right? The
Yeah.
cool name.
Wow.
no, primitive objects and
Well,
primitive. They're the
well,
top
many of
two.
them will put cool branded names, which is wonderful, but somewhere it has to say hair. And so I
Exactly.
was showing
That's
him.
so true.
Yeah, and this so I was saying this is how you find it. Right click it, zoom to it, check it out, and then see if you want to hop on over there and get a copy or whatever. And so I teach them a lot of ways of protecting their privacy and confidentiality as they're looking at content while and finding content before they go get it. So they're not just wandering around and feeling a little vulnerable, right? And so we think about that. And of course, I had to show them lots of different hair.
Also, something that's great that you've included here is I don't know how long it was. Well, back in second life days, I suppose
Uh-huh.
it took me an awful long time to find out about area search. I knew about
Oh,
search
yeah.
and looking up certain events and things like that, but there's a lot of tricks to area search. I mean, it's not just
Sure.
having a button and launching it. It's
Mhm.
having all the fields you can fill in, and also we always used to cheat on hunts, because all the
Yeah,
hunt prizes will probably have the same prefix. So you do an area search and you just look for objects that have the giveaway tag on them, and
that's
then you
right.
teleport to them and pick them up, rather than spending 3 or 4 hours hunting. So it's a really invaluable tool that area search thing. So
It
more
is.
people
You
should use
know, and Mal, it's funny you should say that. That used to work so easily for Fantasy Fair, and then they got clever one year and
it.
had someone else place it, and of course, it had nothing related to the hunt itself or the
Yeah.
Queen's Quest. Yeah, the Bard Queen. Yeah, but
It doesn't
uh,
always work, but a lot of time it does. Yeah.
absolutely.
Especially out
Uh,
here on Opensim. Yeah.
Well, this is something I discovered, and I've been in World for a really long time. We'll just say that. Um, I've been I'm trying to think how long.
We all.
2005 for SL, yeah,
As long as
and
me, as long as
yeah,
as
yeah,
long as me, about the same time probably, yeah. What,
yeah,
15, 16 years, something like that.
but I work all the time, right? And then, of course, you tend to go to your favorite places, and there you are. So, someone introduced Keigman Furniture Design to me, and I had a field day with it because it stimulated all kinds of ideas. And of course, I took the students there and I says, it's going to be a little surprising when you go because it seems like you land in Arkham City and like in Batman. And so, and you're probably asking yourself when you arrive, where's the shops? So, of course, I was explaining to them lots of different ways to find them, including that area search. We extended our draw distance to 1,000 meters, did the area search, and then popped on over. But of course, and it looked great, right? This is me popping on over. And I love the celebratory content because during COVID, everyone was just exhausted and we were all isolated and we needed more opportunities to celebrate, even in school. And so, especially in school, because schools weren't able to have their proms, they weren't able to have any of their traditions that they'd have in high school or college, etc. So, of course, celebratory events became critical for education. Before that, I never I mean, I would have a closing party. We'd have a dance, a DJ, Astoria would come over and away we'd go. And it would be wonderful. But now we celebrate as often as we can. So I was excited to see this. And of course, I took a lot of different images to explain to them how to navigate the shops, how to find the content, how to make sure that the permissions were appropriate for them for their intended use, right? And then, of course, who manufactured it to understand some of these digital rights. And yeah, I'm
Oh,
zooming in. Yeah.
there's the dinkies.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, it is dinkies, not tinies. Yeah. the
And I
cat
was trying to
library.
explain the culture of dinkies, right? Because at several of the shops, dinkies were the big thing. And I was trying to explain to them that not only that phenomena, but how it feeds the spirit, right? How it strikes a chord within us. And of course, um, I always laugh at school when they say, "Are you sure you understand what diversity means?" And I says, "Oh, I embrace it wholeheartedly. I'm not even stuck with humanoid, you know." You know? And of course, they
I
always look
just
at me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that in the YouTube chat, Trizzy Hunter, who's also
Oh,
called
oh, Tracy.
a
Yeah.
number of other names,
Wonderful.
she's just pointing out that over on her in her salon shop, which is Raven's Roost Concourse, and that's
Oh,
if you
yeah.
haven't been there yet, you have to go, because it's just a massive store. She has clothes there for men. She has clothes for women. She has furniture, plants, anything pretty much that you can imagine. And again, as I say, the clothes that she puts up for as freebies that she's offering, they're all things that she has obtained legally from people in Second Life. Sometimes, for example, it might be somebody who's decided to, stop selling stuff in Second Life,
Sure.
but they have this content, and she goes into Second Life. She just asks the makers of objects, would they be willing to allow their things to be offered for free in Opensim? It's not a competing marketplace.
Mhm.
But would they be okay with that? And the amount of times that she gets a yes answer is extraordinary. So, often
That's
people think
wonderful.
everything's copy botted because it's come from Second Life. No, no, not necessarily. So Raven's Roost Concourse, great place to go.
Yeah, everything I make, I put a Creative Commons, 0 or buy license on it so they can use it however they wish, including commercial or derivative for my stuff. And the reason I do that, though, is I'm a futurist and a pioneer. I'm not a person who sells content. I'm a person who inspires others to have great dreams, right? So
Wonderful.
that's the purpose here. Yeah. So I wasn't just covering the facts of navigating to shops or the mundane of, hey, they have hair, which is to me critical, right? But also the notion of these experiences, how our world comes to life when we see that tea sitting on that book in that tray, right? I have that
Mm-hmm.
right next to me, in life. And so I love that we feel this connectedness with our environment, you know. Um, and so that's why so many of these photos are really trying to just capture the experience and explain why these spaces matter. Um, I'm not the mad shopper in real life. I don't go to malls a lot, but it's because I'm teaching 15 classes. That would be why. But I do love the fact that I can do this virtually and just have
Yeah.
this amazing experience. Anyway, I know
There was
I got to move
some
along, but
amazing shops. Yeah,
yeah, it
some
is.
amazing
And
shops there.
and I love the Thanksgiving display. Of course, it was harvest display, right? But I was instantly thinking of Thanksgiving because we're about to celebrate that here in the US, and we're always very thankful. And I thought this was lovely. Then I was noticing, and I explained to my students about culture. And of course, you will notice the forks and the knives and spoons. For where we live, we reverse them. We put them on the opposite side. And so I was explaining about different cultures and how we feel and how all of this content evokes. What's that, Mal?
I was going to say, bring on the chopsticks, please.
Yeah, exactly. Well, last year we did hold it in Sakurajima, Japan. We have a build for that. And so we had seafood in Japan for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, you've probably been to Dival's, right? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. My apologies. But what an amazing place to see all this content, including dinkies, right? But all of this beautiful, beautiful content. And the first thing I did with my students, had them find the hypergrid link and join me at Dival's. And of course, we had to go see Cinderella's carriage, right? And some of these fantasy things that are just really, really beautiful. And I'm sitting in there. It's a little cheesy, right? Of course, there's a wedding going on, and here I am. But it was a class. I was taking these photos with my students. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing how so many of the German grids are really great on
Oh, they
content.
are.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Laura Destiny, great friend of all of us.
Uh-huh.
Laura is German, and she is organized. She did one last year, and she did one a couple of years ago, and hopefully we'll talk her into doing another one, a fashion show in which she
Oh,
managed to get
right.
9 different creators from 5 different grids. They're all German speakers, and they had a
uh-huh.
wonderful fashion show with a catwalk and everything. Spike Sol, who we'll all remember from Soliton Grid,
Yeah.
he did the emceeing and explained all the costumes to everybody, and it was a way to unite everyone, but really get once again encourage the making of original content in OpenSim. And so these are 9 creators who are really working hard to make original stuff for OpenSim and really share it with the community, because all of them make stuff and they give it away for free. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
that's
remember,
the German
I
wonderful.
grids are
remember,
wonderful.
I remember filming that, and it was
Yes.
wonderful. It was delightfully lag free compared with
Mm-hmm.
the ones in that other place that I've occasionally been to. And you could just film it, the avatars are walking in, turning around, going back, and all that stuff, and it felt, real time rather than when you've got lag and you've got a fashion show on, and they all sort of clunk around like robots with their joints stuck. No, that's really wonderful, and to see that in OpenSim actually, just proves the breadth of stuff here. It's not all obscure art or stuff. It's just thriving.
And I have
Simple
several of
clothing.
these sculpture models next to me in real life that I use all the time for
Mm.
planning animations. So I love the fact that they're also, just free roaming here in the corner. Speaking of what you were
Yeah.
talking about, it just the sense of whimsy and it stimulates all kinds of ideas in students when they're creating content, when they're also just laying things out, like creating an open space, an outdoor space. An experience or part of a game, thinking through the content and how it would fit in the environment they're characterizing, and then thinking about the movements of the people, and then creating those animations. You have to realize none of my students are artists or they're computer science professionals, they're AI professionals, they are data scientists, they're cybersecurity, and they're many of them are doctoral students. So of course they want to look good. They want everything to be fast, and of course they want it to be great, and so I love taking them here. We had such a fun experience, and of course I wound up decorating a couple of kitchens as a result. Meanwhile, we're almost finished with Divols here, but um, there's just so many different areas to see. And I was wandering down here. I was thinking of Beth Ghost Raven and her dinkies. I was also thinking of all the folks who love wearing mesh, and especially really nicely constructed mesh, And so I took them through the men's sportswear here. And here's Dinky World. And of course, so there's a lot of different dinkies here. And then they show the new arrivals and then all the little props and things that just make the experience come to life. And I just love this. I, yeah. Um, I'm so used I feel more comfortable when my avatar is about 6'6", but I love this for certain special moments because it evokes an emotion deep inside me, that I just love.
I in Second Life, I've actually got a mesh cat. I mean, not a
Oh, I
dinky.
know. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I just channel myself into that creature, and it beats anything else. The only
Oh,
thing
it's
that annoys
wonderful.
me is people stepping on me because.
I know. I know.
But I always head for your lap, don't I? That's my
Yep.
safe zone.
And that's what I love is the fact that you fit everywhere.
Yeah,
You don't have to wait for a seat or wait for this or make sure there's space or whatever. It just blends so beautifully. And cats have this way of doing that, right?
yeah.
Becoming part of our world, and it's their world, really.
So they say.
Yeah. But anyway, and then what's life without food? Of course, students are always thinking about that, and I'm like, okay. So, and then I teach them how to create HUDs, how to create resers, how to create various things to pull these experiences together, and then to test them, their behavior, and how easy it is to change them, which is usually the hardest thing, right? Is making content fit your world, and then also feeling in control of it. But here we are, we're just taking a look at all these amazing creations. Meanwhile, of course, I had to take them to the historic Lenny Mall.
I used to
We
love
do a
that.
lot of sci-fi. What's that?
I used to go there a lot. I mean, it's
Uh,
just around the corner, it's great here, of course. So
oh,
it's,
yeah.
yeah. I haven't
Hmm.
been for a while, but I used to look for stuff there all the while.
Well, we were talking about the future. I teach futuring and innovation, and I force them to make something that's not possible in real life, but might be in 10 to 20 years, maybe further. And so to get ideas, we come to the Lanny Malls. And of course, we talk a lot about science fiction and movies. And of course, this is like a scene out of Dune, right?
Yeah,
And uh, and then going through it, this is a cognitive overload. So of course, I
yeah.
have to give them tips on how do you find content and how do you get in and out of here quickly, and then how do you make sure that when you get something that you actually have it in your inventory and can render it.
Yeah.
Here lately, I've noticed on OS Grid, when I get certain items from here, sometimes I have to make a copy of it in my inventory and then I have to open that copy
Yeah, it
after
can
I
be
get
very
home.
glitchy.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
had I had many, well, not that many years ago, because it was here in Opensim, of course. I forget whether I had Lani on the show. We just had a long discussion prior to the show, but she had been doing something quite unique, and that was everything she created. Right, it was given away for free, but it was
Mhm.
still copyright to her and stuff.
Mhm.
She had what seems obvious, but she had a very unique way of making sure everything was trademarked and copyright. You would often find that if you tried to take something apart, the underside of a prim in or something would have a trademark on it and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Now, somebody looking at the thing wouldn't see that; it was hidden to the viewer. But if you got in there and messed with it, and she always said, "Well, I can always tell if it's mine because I know where I hid the trademark."
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you can find almost anything you buy from her. You'll find her trademark is hidden in there somewhere, yeah,
That's great.
out of view. Anyway, sorry,
Oh, no, that's good. All I'm showing here is they love to come to the vehicles and the gadgets and the this and that and the other. And of course, helping them to understand which things do you take copies of, which things do you buy, and all these different behaviors. And they're always asking me, why is there so many different ways to get content? And I said, well, it's the diverse ways in which we create it, but also sometimes based on our rights, the rights to share it. And of course,
And
I
also
love
based on
Steam.
forgetting, and also
There's that.
based on the fact that you forgot to set it to the correct setting. That's
There's
a
that
lot of it
too.
is that.
Yeah, it is. It
This
is.
is
And
this is a great
Good
poster.
grief, Virginia Raddick. I haven't seen her. It's got to be 6 or 7 years since the
Oh,
last
really?
time I
yeah,
saw Virginia.
but I love
She's long
steampunk, I
gone.
have to admit.
It's a
Yeah,
great poster, wasn't it?
she's
And
a
then
great lady. Sadly
yeah,
missed.
yes. And I miss Miss Lemon, Miss Zia, all her
Oh,
Melodies
Zia
Gardens.
Freeman.
That's it.
Sure, Zia Freeman. Sure,
She
absolutely.
disappeared right as COVID hit, and I haven't seen her since. I used to go to
No,
her region every month. That's how
yeah.
popular it was with me. Yeah. And so this is a little excerpt of it, shall we say, in Lanny Mall.
And of
Meanwhile,
course,
I
you
went
must
to,
know.
hmm?
Speaking of Lanny Moore, you must have seen also Tina Bay's things because Tina
Yes,
is a fantastic builder of sci-fi things. And
absolutely.
thank goodness, also still very, very busy in OpenSim.
Well, when I went to the Opensim Fest, speaking of which,
Hmm.
I noticed all these beautiful garden creations, trees, and other things. So I thought, well, what's the world without landscape, right? And so with all this beauty, and so I went to Encantada, thanks to Franz, who had built a garden with content from her. And
Phoebe Bombinate, she's
yeah,
great.
absolutely. So of course I have a bunch of images of this, and of course zooming into some of the pieces that I just thought were really
Oh,
beautiful. Oh, I
and
seem
for
to be
whoever,
done.
yeah, I was just going to say, who was it? Who's counting, Thursday?
Well, that
I
wasn't the
warned
end. That
you.
was that was folder one, but
Oh,
that's a good place to stop. We can always continue another day. Back to
That would
you.
be wonderful. Well,
yeah.
yes.
I want to see more, but yeah. Right, I see. So there's two separate folders in there. Okay, that's Yeah. Well, no, we got through it quick enough. That's for sure. It's very comprehensive. So, what's this? I mean, what was interesting to me was that I first saw the another version of this. The first version of this I saw was you actually presenting in Second Life,
That's right.
which was kind of funny because I thought, how many of the people watching are here at NPC or wherever it was? Um, to actually
Well,
come to OpenSim, and it's very hard to tell because obviously your students who you teach in OpenSim are in OpenSim,
that's right.
but the people who are listening to that in Second Life, I wonder how many of them, if you any idea how many of them might follow through and come shopping here, or
Well, the virtual world mass MOOC.
yeah,
What this is, I forget which year it is, 7th or 8th, maybe longer for it, but it spans over different grids and different worlds, and it even spans over some 3D games and environments like Minecraft, World of Warcraft, and others, Fortnite, etc.
yeah,
So it's not exclusively Second Life, but some of the curation of the content, it resides there on one of their grids on Chilbo. But
oh, of course, I used to,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, and it's a
yeah.
Hey,
heavy
does
educator
Chilbo still
thing.
exist? Wow.
Yes, it does with content,
It's
and,
still my home grid in Second
yeah.
Life, yeah.
And see,
Good
it
Lord.
bridges with the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium. It bridges with VWBPE, the best practices in education. And the thought here is, for me, the reason I did it is for the last few years, I've been doing how to hypergrid, how to this, how to that. And all of it's been about OpenSim because I want people to think in a connected way about the world. The metaverse is not necessarily a commercial world by any means. It's the ability to travel, to experience. To me, it's the 3D grid, right?
Yeah.
And the 3D web, this notion of connectedness. And I'm an advocate in figuring out protocols to be able to take avatars between worlds, between games,
Exactly.
between all kinds of environments. I just wrote a book chapter that's going to be published by Springer Singapore on education in the metaverse. And it's essentially the notion of this connected world and how we're shaping it today. We're all pioneers in this experience.
And can I ask you
I,
something, if you agree
Yeah,
with me on this?
sure.
Back in the day, you're talking about the early days of Second Life.
Hmm.
One of the things with the shops that you would go to was that the actual experience of going to the shop was a sort of inherent part of enjoying the experience of being in a virtual world.
That's
And
right.
gradually, Sims became more expensive, and gradually, obviously, Linda Lamb were pushing people towards the marketplace because they could make a cut on every sale, and it became much more sensible for somebody who's making content to simply not have a region anymore, or part of a region in most cases. But if you remember the glory days, some of the shops would have an entire region
Hmm.
yeah.
and you could explore it, and the shop was just a part of the region. Well, of course, that continues in OpenSim, and probably the biggest part of people who make content in OpenSim to give away, they give it away in the context of the region that they have made, especially if it's content that they have made. So the idea is that they make the content, the freebie, as kind of um, the trick to get you to come and see the rest of the things they've made. Trick is the wrong word, but it's a sort of it's an incentive for you to experience the rest of what they've made, because they want you to experience their region, and that is missing from Second Life now, because nobody goes looking for a shop anymore. You just click, you open the marketplace, and you go. So
And
do
you,
you
and
think
you get
that?
and you get given 50 different T-shirts a day, advertising places to go.
Right.
It's yeah, it's
But
overkill.
I'm curious to know if you think that obviously it's quicker for somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to spend in world to just go into a website and find the thing they need and just buy it, or get it for
It's
free. As
convenient. I
well,
don't know
if, for
that it's
example,
quicker. And
well,
here's why.
Neverworld, for example, they now have, if you're a Neverworld Grid member, You can go to their website and just download the thing that you see that you like, and
Sure.
so you just have it. You don't have to go and find the shop. You can just, and the content there's less of it, because obviously there's not this bewildering amount of content on the grid that's focusing on
Well,
trying to
that
make
misses
stuff.
the intimacy of the experience. That's right. So they're trading convenience and a rapid acquisition for that experience of browsing and it's
Mm.
also kind of social too. Whether there's anyone there or not, you feel like you're communing with the person who designed it or the team that designed all the different artifacts that are included in it. Um, I still go to shops. I do buy off the marketplace, but every time I do, 9 times out of 10, it won't work. Whatever I bought, I mean, I just bought 15 things
Really?
like 3 days ago, and none of them are going to work. But they looked really great on the ad. The reviews were wonderful. And when I get them, I'm like, oh, this would be for a comedy special, not for prime time. If I wanted to show my faux pas, this would be a great opportunity. But no, so I actually need to experience
I
it.
think you need a mix, though. I do believe that you need a mix,
Convenience is nice. There's nothing wrong with it.
because
Yeah.
some people just don't have the time, and if people who don't spend a
Well,
lot
that
of
would be
time in
me.
world, well,
Uh,
people who are quite new also, or just
mhm.
don't have the familiarity with all the places, it is bewildering. You're absolutely right.
You
Um,
know what I do these
but
days?
you do
I'm glad you
you kind
mentioned
of
that.
need both. You need kind of need both things, because then it gives people the opportunity to have the
Sure.
experience of going looking, browsing, or just being the quick and dirty. I need this. Let me get it. Where can I
Uh-huh.
find it? And just go on a website.
I find it the tactile thing. If I even go to a thrift
Yeah.
shop or something like that and rummage around, I mean, that's just stuff. That's just fun. You can't shop online that way. You've got to know what you're looking for and go to the right
Mhm.
place and procedure. And I know a lot of shops now are doing the AI thing where you can try something on virtually, because I think that's
Mhm.
half of it. You might buy a pair of pajamas or something online because you don't really care as long as they fit, you know. But if it's something you're going to wear in the street, for example, you want to try it on and see how you look in it. And
But
that's
it's
why
not just it's not just the purchaser side of it. And Lone
yeah,
Wolf just made a comment over in YouTube, and he's saying that he's working on a marketplace setup for Wolf Territories grid, and the
yeah,
idea that he is using there is to tell people where to go to buy the thing, rather than just say, "Well, I'll just sell it to you," or "You could get the
Sure.
freebie here from the website."
yeah,
It tells you where to go, and then you go to that region, and then of course you see everything else that is available
that goes
in
with
that
it. Yeah,
store or
Great.
on the region, and that's a great idea, I
yeah,
think.
absolutely. It gets people
I'd like to
in.
mention Poppy Fields as well, of course, who does the OS Expo here on OS Grid, where she does a very similar thing in a way, where she has an expo space where people can put an item that they've made or that they're selling, and you don't buy the item there necessarily. You have get a landmark, and you go to that person's home grid, and then you can look there at everything else they've made. So good for Poppy and good for Lone. Great way of
Great.
doing things.
Yeah, and Lone Wolf will be at OSCC presenting as well, so that'd be great.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yes. He's
to
sitting
answer
in
your
the audience
question,
right now.
oh, awesome.
Yes. Hello,
Well,
Mr. Wolf.
yeah. Well, to your point, whenever I see people wearing various accoutrements or their decor or whatever it is, I tend to always look for the creator, and I keep a list of creators. I also look up their shops whatever world I'm in, because I'm in 8 or 9 different worlds, and then I traverse about. And then I think about this connectedness. Like, do they have different identities in different places? Can I recognize their work when I see it? Does it have this artistry that really shouts out it's them?
Yeah.
Well, if
And
it's cherry
that's what I
manga,
love.
then
Oh,
yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great example. But anyway,
Cool. So, Open, well, it's not Open Sim so much. It's the hypergrid fills that function because I try to describe now the hypergrid as a system, a network that connects lots of virtual worlds. Don't think of them as grids. Think of them as lots of different Second Lives, all connected
And
together.
and also don't think of them as separate tribes. And that's
No.
another great thing. If that does happen, that people that, well, I'm on this grid, so somebody who's selling stuff on another grid, well, that's kind of my enemy because they're
Yeah.
drawing people to their grid and not to my grid. And it really doesn't work out very well because, first of all, no grid is eternal. So you may find yourself neighbor to that person down the road. So why not just be friendly and see everything as a community rather than thinking of it in terms of the warring tribes? That's a crazy way to do it.
Absolutely.
Oh, look what all my boats. That's Karima. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Oh
just
yes,
looking at you, Viviana.
this is a sort of
Do you remember,
segue thing in a way.
do you remember when we did the
This is
safari and we all took those boats?
yeah, well, this is
Excellent.
actually the safari at OSCC from a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh. That's
That's
right.
why I chose it. So it's yeah, we did the interviews and stuff, and but
Yeah.
at the open, there won't be one this year, unfortunately. Too much else going on. But the lunchtime on what was it, Sunday, I think, became a safari especially made for OSCC. And I think that was the first time a lot of people had heard of the safari. And even at OCC, people come now. It's a great meeting place,
Hmm.
as you know, there. But there'll be some people there that they come because they want to see this or hear about general things, but they don't know about the hypergrid. Mentally, they don't. They just know that they go to an open sim that's called OSCC for the conference, and maybe they've been to OS Grid at some point too, but you know, what do you mean hypergrid? Yeah, like teleport for across grids, and
Hey, Mel,
Well,
that's the
yeah,
point.
people are like, but people are like that in the real world too. A lot of
yeah,
people are very much stay at homes. If they don't know
Sure.
a place, they don't want to go somewhere they don't know. They like things that are familiar. So it's not really surprising that people in the virtual worlds are also a little bit wary about jumping from place to place, especially if they don't have a guide, which is of course what Lyr is doing.
yeah.
I
She's
Yeah,
I'm
this,
so
providing
glad
that
you said
backup.
that because that was the point I was making earlier is the fact that the reason I did this in Second Life was to let them know that this world is varied and rich and multi-textured and full of content and life and vibrancy and often people say, "Well, I go to Opensim, but there's nothing to wear, nothing to buy, and nothing, no nothing to do." And I'm like, "Well, that's not true on any count." So, of course, showing
yeah.
them the guide, the OpenSim world as a departure point. Obviously, that's not the only one, but that's the one that I think most people overlook from Second Life. Yeah.
But
I think
that's
when
not just
and
people from Second Life, though, because you hear Open Sim people say that. There's
Really?
only 200 people in the whole of Open Sim,
Oh,
and everybody else is an alt. It is a bit of it's a question of mindset as well. I mean,
sure.
are you willing to go out? Are you willing to try and meet people? Do you plan strategies in your experience in world so that you will be where people are? Which is kind of where we started the safari. We started the
That's right.
safari on a Wednesday because that was the day when so many grids had their grid meeting. So it was
Ah,
a perfect day when you could run into people and make
oh,
new
good.
friends. So, I mean, obviously, if you just wander around at a time of day when nobody's online, you're not going to meet everybody. So you have to be willing to adapt.
Mhm.
I think there's also the thing that I mean, Second Life, unfortunately, is fast, but but I know James has feelings on this too. Like the reason Kitely can be a problem is because every region is considered to be another world, and you've got to wait for it to come up and stuff like that. You haven't got that feeling of just walking endlessly in a vast world, whether it's busy or deserted or whatever. I mean, my favourite sims are deserted regions of landscape and beauty that I can get on a horse and travel around, with nobody around. But when people land in Second Life, they are, I think, instantly aware, apart from the fact they can suddenly fly, that they've got this vast new world to explore. And I think when they come to Open Sim, they've obviously got to choose one way or another a home grid, like say OS Grid, and mentally they still think it's like Second Life, where the limits of the world are where you can walk and fly to. It's an interconnected continent, and of course, in OS Grid's case, that is quite big. But there are many other grids that are very small, and if you just dumped yourself in them, like they do in Second Life, you think, "Oh, this is miserable. There's nobody here. It's small. There's nothing to explore," because they can't conceive of. I mean, everybody knows how to teleport in Second Life, and hypergridding is very much the same here, but they don't think that. They think there's the edge of the world. Hang on, there's nothing interesting here, and it's like a flat Earth, but of course it's not because there's thousands of flat Earths. So, I remember Crystal Lopes had the
Huh?
back in the day before the hypergrid existed, and indeed Opensim barely existed. She did a demo of an event I was at and filmed in Second Life, and she portrayed the idea of the hypergrid as massive layers of flat Earth, and the idea of transitioning from one position on one flat Earth across to the next flat Earth up, but in a different position. So she has sort of diagonal lines that would indicate that you can be on one flat Earth, but there's another, like an alternative world just above you, and you can transition into it. And that put paid in a way to the idea of geography as such. It's like, what was it? Corey's old blog was called "Collapsing Geography" or something. It's inherent in the thing. Oh, have I put everybody to sleep?
No.
Yeah, no, I was just
We
thinking
were
about
listening
what
to
you
you
were
though,
saying.
and I didn't realize.
Well, I had to
Mal
work.
is like that never happens that they listen to
Of
me.
course
Good
not.
Lord.
Well, and
I
YouTube
thought, I
chat
thought
is
you
pretty active too, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on that.
Well,
Yeah,
I was
it's
also thinking
distracted.
about what you were saying because
yeah,
my goal is to encourage people to be in every world and to be contributing, dreaming, and of course shaping the future. So that's what education's role is to inspire and of course since I pay for all my own stuff, OpenSim has the best opportunity for me. So so I've been attending the core dev meetings and working with the viewers, developers, and thinking about where we're going and how everything comes together in this world.
can I
Yeah,
preempt a little bit here? We obviously haven't got time to move to the conference, but you and I have decided to sort of collaborate this year on the famous viewer panel, Return of the Viewer panel. And partly this is because you have been consulting with devs and things, and they're slightly, I guess, this person is worried about certain changes. Now, without actually going into or doing what we're going to do on the panel, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Things
Well,
maybe.
let me just speak of it from my inspiration perspective, which could always be flawed. That way I don't have responsibility for being accurate. I
Fair enough.
the way
Fair
Excellent.
the
enough.
way I
Yep.
think about it is the viewer is our window to the world, right?
Yeah.
It's our interface, and it gives us this capability to, to do layout, design, creativity, socialize, and everything else,
Yeah.
and we're dependent on it. And of course, we often want more improvements on the viewer, but we're not always sure what they should be. Articulating what we want is usually one of the challenges. The second challenge is, are we always going to be, consistent with Second Life or other commercial worlds so that people can use the same viewer to travel between them? And then
Mm.
if new worlds come up, how will that roll and integrate as well? So I'm thinking of the future when I thought of the viewer panel because I thought, for the next 1 to 3 years, we're probably fine. But the question is, what looms in the future and how should we plan for it? Rather than being led or driven by change, why don't we be agents of change and figure out, what's the plan and then how can we support it? Where can each of us contribute? And that was my idea there, Mal.
Right.
with scheduling it.
Yeah. Well, also, of course, there are, like we're talking about I can never remember the name of the bloody viewer that I'm thinking of. Crystal, what's this?
Crystal
You know,
Frost.
there are
Crystal.
changes happening anyway.
Yes, there are.
I'm going to call it Crystal Watsits from now on. I love that name.
Just don't call it crystal meth.
Uh-oh.
Or even worse.
Ah,
Right, oh dear, the whole world turns crystalline all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah, but it's you know, there's lots of involvement in mesh and things there, which is
yeah.
correct. But you know, like you, I'm very interested in interop. I mean, I usually check in with Omi everywhere, and in fact, your friend Joyce and mine is often in there too. And well, what's it? You know, interop, you know, people are doing interop, but I think any real interop is going to come through WebXR, not through a standalone clients, because as you say, you know, we've got Firestorm that we might use for Second Life and we might use it for Opensim, and Opensim is an awful lot of grids, but they're all running on open simulator software. There is a commonality there. It's technically possible to hypergrid to Second Life and back, or I mean, it would be, and not is. Um, but you know, as you say, the other worlds are built on different systems. WebXR particularly would enable you to be basically in a world via your browser, and just like going to a new web page, you better go to a new web world. Whether you went to it via the embedded world and
Hmm.
changed location, or whether you actually launched a new tab for the other next location,
Hmm.
things like that, you know. And being on the web, you will be able to have inventories and things that, I mean, forgetting copyright issues and things. Technically, you have a shared asset folder which travels around the web with you, like
Right.
with the old weblins, if you remember them. Your avatar was in the bottom corner of your screen, and it travelled around the internet with you.
Hmm.
And you could even use your Second Life avatar, because the Weblins people came into Second Life and opened a manufacturing facility where they could turn your avatar into a Weblin. I don't really remember
Good
that, but
Lord.
all those, yeah,
Are
ages
you
ago.
sure this is? Are you sure this wasn't just a dream you had? Because it sounds like a
No, no,
nightmare to me.
I've still got one. I can't do it here, but on the web page, you could still join me with my Weblin. It's not as good as it used to be, but you know, it was basically I would get to a news item on the web, and
Uh-huh.
with my news hat on, as it were, and you know, I wanted to share it with people. So instead of tweeting it, if I wanted to share it with somebody particular, I would actually click on my Weblin, and the avatar would open my friends list, and I could teleport the avatar from whatever page they're on to the web page I'm viewing. So it's like a teleport across web pages. There were no worlds involved, but for people interested in things, I could, oh God, I've just read this article about this amazing new haptic device, whatever. So I could look up the person I wanted to share that with and said, "Do you want to come and see it?" And they would come and watch the same web page as me. And you know, that was interop in a very basic form. But it only worked, for example, in that case because it was you know, an embedded style sheet on every web page, basically. You know, like a lot of things we get these days that travel around the web with you. And I think we need, you know, that's really what interop is going to take. I can't see anybody in Opensim, let alone Linden Labs, which of course is proprietary, actually working on any kind of which would interop with different game engines, for example.
There are
Because
standards
Opensim and
groups
Linden,
through the IEEE and other groups that are
yeah,
working on are thinking about what you're discussing.
yeah.
My one concern is, oh, I hear you.
Oh boy.
My
Oh,
one
oh well,
my
please, Pink Floyd alarm clock.
the crickets are here. My one
Uh-oh, I
concern
think
is
we're out of
first,
time. That's what happened. That's why we hear
okay,
those noises.
Yeah,
Because we're way over time once again.
well, we
Okay.
started a bit late, so we're actually not too bad. We're just
well,
about right, I think.
if
But
I
we
could
at
leave
least
it
we
with
haven't
this
got
last
Pink Floyd.
thought.
We haven't got the time bells yet, so
Okay. If I
Um,
could leave it with this last thought, the
yeah,
thing I'd like to preserve, and this is because of education, there's a power in creation. It's not just resing content created by others and placing it in an experience that inspires. Uh, when you create something, even if it's that bare prim that you drop to the ground, there's a certain magic that occurs. And when that happens, the user then feels a sense of ownership and involvement and engagement with the world. And if we go to all these other forms of technology, I don't want to lose the ability to rapidly create within the environment. And
No.
that's why I'm not doing web worlds or some of the others, is because right now most of those are you pre-plan all the content and then you
Yeah.
visit it.
That's actually the same all over. I mean, even Sciencebase, which has just had its a major upgrade, that you've got a little subset of Unity that as a user you can use live, but you've got to actually log out and go into the full Unity if you want to really create. And what Second Life and Opensim particularly have always had is that coexistence space. I mean, uh, even talking to Philip, probably enough, he was coming up. I forget where it was. He was coming up with a list of all the things, and I said, yeah, Philip, you've missed one thing. It's called collaboration space, because he hadn't listed that. He talked about communication, presence, and all that, but in fact, the place where not only I can resoprim and reshape it, but I can work with a colleague and they can take part in changing the same prim in real time. Well, that's something you can't do on any other virtual world platform that I'm aware of, except for Second Life.
That's true. No, you're absolutely right. That does really make us unique. The Opensim Second Life family of birds, it has this wonderful picaresque element to it that you enter. There's no established course that you have to take. Anything can happen, and you can make it happen. It's your choice. It's a challenge because then we discover we don't really have as much imagination as we thought we did, and possibly not even a quarter of the talent that we hoped we had. But then we make friends and we learn how to do things, and our life takes
like what? Like we're doing this show, we're all collaborating
great.
and filming it, aren't we? So.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, I guess we better start wrapping. It's unusual it's usually me that's going on and on and on. Before we do, James, who is doing a wonderful job on cameras here as always. James, have you got any questions on the thoughts of shopping or to Lyr in general?
No, I appreciate the area search. I've never even known about that, so I'm
Yeah. I'm
going to do that right after this, and then I'm looking forward to the conference. I can't wait for these presentations.
Of course. Yeah.
Just don't look for objects is my advice, because you'll find many more than you know.
Primitive.
Yeah,
Objects.
No, and primitive. Primitive is a good
And primitive is the other one.
They're actually usually more primitive than there are objects, because objects at least they've got something on them. Yeah, it's area search is wonderful. Maybe we should do a show on area search. Okay, well we better wrap.
But not tonight.
Yeah, we better wrap because it is we're sort of on schedule, and we got an awful lot into that chat. I'm intrigued that there's a whole second folder of images to go through, so we will have to have part 2 of this.
Can I just apologize to Lyr that the second folder arrived about I guess it was 10 minutes ago now. It just arrived, so I guess I had some lag there.
Oh,
But,
it's
so I
no
have it
worry. You have
already
to realize it's
looking-
all good. I only mentioned it because I knew I had gone way too fast.
Oh yeah,
Well, we
Time is
filled the
good.
time anyway.
you got to the end even before you thought you would.
Now there is a thought here as we're saying goodbye. I need more links for places to tour during OSCC on Sunday, because we're going to give a little shopping tour, and I don't want to bore people with the standards. I'll publish this one as is, and then we'll work up another one. So now we need your favorite spots.
And we must check out. I haven't checked out some Tana Wells for quite a while, which Tessa mentioned. She was always great.
Yeah, if you want, she's unusual in that she does a lot of. She's got a whole range of casual wear for men that she made herself, as well as the clothes for the ladies, and all kinds of other odds and ends, and loads of really good shoes. If you like shoes, she's the person. So yeah.
And
I'm wearing her shoes right now.
Yeah, and quite a few art things she does as well. So it's gotta check her round first. Well, talking into the new year now. We'll have to get her over here. She always had a lot to show off.
I can't see your shoes. There's your bell bottoms cover it.
Good point. Bell bottoms. Yeah.
I'll have to organise a private showing at some point.
You've,
Maybe we'll make a safari out of the shoes
you're,
of theirs.
you're stuck the other week on the Grateful Dead show and still in your bell bottoms. that was great too.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Right, okay, well, time to close the show, I think. So I'd like to thank, first of all, James Atloud for fiddling with his knobs and doing all the audio-visual mixing and everything else. Basically changes this show from being a talking head show into something a bit better.
Yeah, you bet, Mal. It's a blast.
It's a blast. No, it's a jumping chair flash.
Right.
No, never mind. I'm in a silly mood now. We're at the end. Right, okay. And of course, thank you to wonderful Thursday member, my co-host, as ever, for intriguing. And you were nice and sprightly today. I could tell shopping was getting you going, you know.
I'll try and keep that sprightliness in check next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. It was a fun show. Thank you, Mal.
Yep.
And finally, of course, thanks to Lyr Lobo, our wonderful guest. And do you know, I've just zoomed in and I can see the glasses you're wearing too. You've been shopping for them.
They're great.
We actually made them. This is part of our Mars expedition stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
it is. Oh, right. I was
It
saying
is.
that's the only thing that doesn't look Mars, but never mind. Yeah,
Well,
so
it's part of our aviator set because we have Huffman Prairie and all the aviation. We do Air Force education, remember?
of course you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so they are,
Actually, you're right, though. These are Nebadons. I just took a peek. I'm not wearing mine. I'm wearing Nebadons.
Oh, yeah, I just thought they were a bit. They're
You're
great.
right. You're
great.
right.
They're great. They are great, but they didn't belong with NASA. Right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, thank you, Lyr, for joining us. It's been a wonderful thing. And we'll get you back with folder 2 and maybe something else post in the new year when all the seasonal conflicts are out the way. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
And good luck with all the work you're doing. I know you're, as well as teaching and everything else, and James too, actually, you're both battering away on the back end of the OSCCU website and stuff. So keep up the good work there. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, with that, folks, it's wraps. I'm going to wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Bye for now.